Hello everybody and welcome to part whatever this happens to be, because it's been so damn long. First of all, I'm not going to jump right into it just yet. First we're going to look at a little bit of footage. And that footage is me approaching Sif because I didn't show it off last time. I did a rollback and I wanted to make sure that I absolutely showed this off. But first off, you can see our little hollow friend over to the side. Just, ignore him. He's being naughty. Just wanted to show off Sif. He's obviously quite injured. Or if he's not injured, he's at least is completely exhausted. I like his feet, kind of. He's meant to be shown just running around, not, lying down like that. So that's the reason why they look kind of weird. But obviously injured. His little cute little ears down. There, of course, is the sword. Meaning, this is kind of unusual. Artorias is not supposed to have his... Like, why does Sif have the sword if Artorias also has the sword? Unless Sif himself actually is meant to be wandering around with it. Like, that's... They actually both fought with swords at the same time, which sounds amazing. I kind of like that a little. But anyways, the cleansing great shield that he has in place, which you cannot physically see right now, is what is keeping this little hollow at bay. All the little doodads that were flying around in circles, just as he was colliding with the barrier. That's what that is. But there's Sif. He's quite happy about that last little urban violence being dispelled from the world. I woo indeed. Local wolf says I woo. So there you have it, everyone. Other than that, let's see. I do have one more thing that I wanted to show off. And that specifically is this little footage of the Hornet ring being showed off. You have to use the Hawk ring in order to hit Manus like this. This is just one thing I wanted to make sure that I absolutely did point out. So, pretty interesting that, isn't it? Alright, now that we have that out of the way, the first thing I'm actually going to do is to try to go down here and kick Manus's ass. Where is... Oh, there he is. I wonder what that is down there. Actually, that's probably Sif's summon sign, if I had to guess. But yeah, after you rescue Sif, you can actually summon him this fight. If I can find it in the chaos that's going to ensue, then I will attempt to summon him in. This is actually the only summon sign in the entire game, at least that I can think of, in which you actually summon him in the midst of the fight itself. You don't summon him outside, which is quite unusual, but quite appropriate given what we're about to do. But let's get in here and get ourselves covered in thick, goopy, mysterious, abyssal substances. I'm referencing myself in my fucking videos. I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm not going to de-equip Artorias' stuff so that we can maintain the illusion. History must repeat itself. Kind of begs the question why Manus doesn't do that all the time, if it's so effective. Pulling me from the past, pulling me down into a damp sexual pit. Quite a talented monster, isn't he? A multitude of eyes for Manus. One thing that you'll notice about him, he sort of has an almost primate or ape-like, there's the Sif right there, an almost ape-like motif about him. Like, he's kind of very primitive man. I mean, this is what he is. His palms have these very jagged, sort of unwashed looking fingers to them. There's a lot going on in his design. And of course a lot going on with his actions right here. I'm using the great shield, of course. So that will probably give me a little bit of time to talk a bit more freely. But the first thing that you might notice, of course, is the multitude of eyes all over him. It kind of goes along with the bloated sorcerer head creatures that we actually see throughout most of Oolacile. They too have lots of eyes inhabiting their heads. Although it may not actually... Oops. It may not actually be their heads that we're looking at. And of course he does have these ridiculous combos. But it may in fact be something that has overgrown from their backs and has actually completely encompassed their heads, which is why that we are actually able to wear them. That is a possibility. As you'll notice with Manus, these things that are outcropping from him do seem to be growing out from his back, specifically. These might be extensions of his spinal column, if I had to guess. They do seem to only be growing out from his back and nowhere else from his body. Something kind of unusual about him is, of course, everything's unusual about him, but he has a tail. Nothing else really seems to have this. And, I guess the most interesting thing about this is if he has this sort of primitive man thing going on with him, then it's kind of unusual that he does have one. Whether this actually means anything or not, who can say? The only thing that I could really come up with, maybe it has something to do with being linked with a dragon somehow. And you'll notice, of course, with his tail, his feet also have sort of these talons going on, which also looks sort of dragon-like. Again, whether that has anything to do with anything, or maybe it's just they like the design and they decided to just roll with that. That's another possibility. So I wouldn't give it a whole lot of thought, but it's interesting to think about anyways. But as far as the eyes go, it's difficult to say what exactly they represent, but usually, the Japanese especially are in love with eyes. Like, usually it's meant to represent some form of, you know, insight or the nature of the soul, especially. Like, the eyes, especially in a... Of course, it's kind of the same thing with Western. I'm not going to make too much of a divide here. Whoops. Attack too often. But the eyes are usually linked with the soul. If you cannot see out of your eyes, like in Demon Souls, the maiden whose eyes are occluded by wax. And the whole idea is that she has a demon sealed within her own body. So not being able to see is linked with having your soul obfuscated. And having a lot of eyes seems to be related more with having unfettered soul power. Or great spiritual strength, perhaps. So whether something is supposed to be literal or not, I kind of doubt. And of course the silver pendant, once he gets down to 50% health, he'll start using this. And if you use it too late, as you can see, then you can get your ass killed. But the silver pendant, did make sure to use this during this fight, is what they want you to use in order to dispel most of his magic. Although, of course, you can just roll out of the way. Rolling being the overpowered thing that it is. I enjoy antagonizing people too much. But in addition... Whoops, should have used it there. Queued it up. But the other thing that you'll notice in regards to his design, he is actually using a catalyst. Like, the thing that he is actually using is called Manus' catalyst, I'm pretty sure. Unless I'm misremembering. Surely it is. That's... Oh, okay. But it does sort of insinuate that either he created it himself, or it was, something that he actually had with him in the crypt whenever he was, awakened for the first time. So whether or not he used to be a sorcerer or not, I kind of doubt it. I mean, if he was, the furtive pygmy, I really hate that move. If he was the furtive pygmy, then it would stand the reason that he did not actually have any magical prowess, as whenever he died, he would have been very, very weak. Because, as we have established... I shouldn't roll when I do that. But as we have established... Alright, good enough. This... I really hate bosses like this, to be honest. But as we have established, the furtive pygmy was alive during the age of the original point at which the light soul established itself, and we got the Age of Light itself. So the dark was very weak at the time. So the idea of him actually having any sort of magical ability is kind of silly. One thing that is kind of unusual is that, as we've seen whenever we're hit by sorcerers and the like, they actually deal split damage. Most of it is physical, but a lot of it also is magical. And it would stand the reason then that can't remember if it had listed it too long. That, if Manus did get this ability, once he awoke and he kind of, his own nature ran wild with him, then it would make sense, given sort of the ongoing theme of this area, of the DLC in general, that he would actually have that split damage potential. Because as I went over in the prior episode, kind of the general theme that we have been going on, that the DLC has revealed to us, is that while the souls have their own aspects, dark light, and so on, dark light, death, and life, while they had these aspects, they're all interlinked with each other because of the nature of the First Flame itself. And as we've seen, there's pyromancies that have this physicality nature to them. I can't remember all of them that I named off last time, but they all interconnect with each other. They're not necessarily sealed off. So it's not a stretch to think that, despite Manus being the sort of the analog for the Dark Lord, even though there isn't one, actually, it would make sense that he would still have other capabilities. But as far as Manus goes, as far as his motivations and everything goes, there's not a lot spelled out for us. We don't get a whole lot in terms of, we'll get a little bit of that later, actually, what little is left. But the general premise is that Manus does not really have a direct, sort of conscious desire. He's more motivated by the loss of this broken pendant that we used to enter the world in the first place. Which I should point out, it's kind of unusual that the pendant is such a big thing. If he's been taking other people in from other dimensions, other worlds, then did they also have broken pendants? You know, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. It could just be that he was looking around. I mean, sure, it's just a gameplay convention, but you get the idea. But this broken pendant actually, it does have quite a bit of meaning to him. What exactly that meaning happens to be, we don't know. And once I get done with this fight, we might go a little bit more into that. Trying to figure out what exactly it was that he was so concerned about in the first place. But for the time being... Come on, get it out of your system. Yes, one more. There you go. For the time being... And you notice it did not ask... Damn it, accidentally switched out of my shield. It did not actually ask us to confirm whether or not we were going to summon Sif in or not. It just allows you to do it. So here comes Sif, and he's not too happy. Sif is here to kick ass. Go get him, Sif. Go get a puppy. Who's a good puppy? You are. You're a good puppy. Oh, look at him go. He doesn't. He doesn't do a lot of damage. And really, the Manus doesn't seem to be overly concerned with him, does he? Come on, kick his ass, Sif. I would love to be able to let Sif have the last hit on him. Because considering what all has been going down, I'm sure that he is eager to kick this guy's ass. Here we are in the final battle, trying to relive history. I, dressed as Artorias, trying to do him a bit of honor by restoring his honor by using myself as an analog for his own legend, while also summoning Sif at the same time, I think is quite fitting. Maybe it would be more fitting for the analog of Artorias to actually land the finishing blow. But Sif was here, and we did help Sif restore the honor of his former master. Farewell, Sif. We will meet again. Hopefully in a very honorable context. I've done, as you've noticed, I've done quite a bit of farming as far as humanity goes. So I maxed out to 99. I don't have 99 humanity and 20 humanities just yet. But I'm a lot closer than I was. Okay, for that we get the Solo Manus and 10 humanity. 10 humanity is it's not a huge amount, but it's pretty substantial. Considering that from most bosses, the most we will ever get is actually 2. Solo Manus. Father of the Abyss. This extraordinary soul is a viscous, lukewarm lump of gentle humanity. So it itself has its own physical nature. It's a physical lump that actually has warmth inside of it, as though it is a breathing entity of its own right. Ancient Manus was clearly once human, but he became the father of the Abyss after his humanity went wild, eternally seeking his precious broken pendant. So there we get the only evidence of what exactly it was that Manus was after in the first place. He was sort of like... I'll say this. I'm sure that this is partially a joke on Miyazaki's part. But one of the starting items that you can actually get in the game is the pendant, which I did not get. I got the master key. But the pendant itself only has the description of... Actually, let's just look at it. A simple pendant with no effect. Even so, pleasant memories are crucial to survival on arduous journeys. And Miyazaki infamously made the joke of, if I had to pick a starting item, it would most definitely be the pendant. And of course it sent people scrambling, like, what does the pendant do? It has to have some sort of special function. And no one ever could figure it out. And eventually he just came out and said, no, it doesn't do anything. I was just kind of joking. But the whole idea with this pendant is that it's basically just a role-playing item. And by the way, the reason I have two of them is because the Cat Covenant is one of the items that you can actually get after a successful invasion. But the whole idea with the pendant is that it is something that you, as far as role-playing goes, you just make up your own lore for why do you have it? What does it actually mean to you? And it's interesting that in the Cat Covenant, you actually get these as their own reward. Because it insinuates that other people are also bringing these things in, and they have their own stories, their own unique sort of backstories that they themselves worry about. And it's just a very common thing. The pendant is just sort of a representation of the idea that people have their own motivations in life. Whether, you know, no matter what kind of run that you're doing, no matter what kind of playthrough that you're doing, you can impose your sort of backstory on that pendant, and that becomes a vessel for your own memories of that playthrough. So I'm sure that the broken pendant itself is kind of a joke in that respect. That whenever they were trying to come up with some sort of motivation for what drove Manus crazy in the first place, then a pendant seemed very fitting. And in the case of this pendant, the thing that Manus was so obsessed over, this broken stone pendant, and by the way, it's made of stone, so whether that has some link with Oolacile or whether or not, perhaps it was something that he got from the ruins of the arch trees, we don't know, but it's kind of interesting that it's made of stone, and it's deeply enchanted. I'll read this again. Half of a broken stone pendant. The vine appears to originate from Oolacile. So while the stone itself may or may not have originated from Oolacile, the vine most certainly does. Which is kind of interesting. Because if he was carrying this around with him, and then he died, and it was sealed with him inside of his coffin, or wherever exactly he came from, whenever they pulled him out, then it would seem to insinuate that someone in Oolacile actually started using it themselves, and made a vine necklace to wear around their neck. Although it seems unusual that they would use a vine. It is kind of fitting with Oolacile because they're very much so obsessed with nature and so forth. But it's also possible that the proto-pygmy actually lived in the land that came to be known as Oolacile much further in the past. If he was actually buried there in the first place, that would sort of make sense, wouldn't it? And Oolacile was one of the first primary settlements of humans, in addition to New Londo. So that would make sense as well. Now, which one of those is true, I don't know. But both are kind of interesting, because one, either someone took it from him and started using it themselves, which there's obvious motivation with that. If it meant something to him, that could very well drive him crazy. If it was something that he just had with him, it seems like it would have rotted off after all these years. If he's been in there for, likely, let's see, it's been at least 1,000 years since the first undead curse was dispelled. Although that's the time that we supposedly are in. I'm not going to get into that again. But even before that, I'm sure it was like another 1,000 years. Or maybe even longer than that, we don't know. So the idea of this vine actually making it through seems kind of silly. So I'm kind of more on the... I kind of think more that it was something that was made later on. Maybe even to give to him. We don't know. We don't know exactly what it is that they were doing in the first place. They resurrected Manus for some reason. If we're assuming that this is the Fretted Pygmy, by the way. I'm just kind of running with this idea. There's a whole other thing. If you don't think this is the Fretted Pygmy for whatever your reasons, which there's no evidence of that, really. It's very heavily implied. But it's, it's possible. So that's your own personal lore. If you want to run with that, go ahead. I don't really mind. But it's also possible that rather than it being stolen, they woke him up somehow. They revived him somehow. Maybe perhaps with the help of Kaith or something. And then they gave this to him. So maybe it's something that he didn't have with him whenever he died. Maybe it's something that was gifted to him as something. Who knows? There's all sorts of interpretations. But a powerful magic can be sensed from this ancient stone. So it is ancient stone. Which to me sort of insinuates more that it's something that he had with him whenever he died. Yet men of this time can neither manipulate nor sense its power. Whether it's referring to this time as being the time that we are in, the one in which we just defeated Manus, or whether or not it's referring to the time in which we got it in the first place, which would be whenever we went to the Duke's archives. So, I don't know. But either way, it seems like no one is left around that can actually manipulate nor sense its power. But it isn't interesting that we somehow can. Like, we're recognizing that there is a powerful enchantment in this thing, but we don't know what its exact nature happens to be. Which has a distinct air consisting of both reverence and nostalgia. So it's a very old magic of some kind. Maybe not even magic, we really don't know. That has some sort of meaning. But this is a broken pendant. It's a broken pendant, it's one half of it. We never find the other half, as far as I can remember. But imagine for yourself what exactly this pendant could contain. What exactly could this pendant mean to Manus that would drive him crazy? Like, you can just make up anything. Like, imagine if the Fretted Pygmy, like in his process of fucking all the zombies and making a race of humans, whatever he was up to, like maybe he fell in love with someone, and the reason why it's broken in half is not because it was damaged, but because he broke it in half and gave the other half to whoever it was that he cared so much about. So it being stolen would be like having the love of his life stolen away from him too, which would be one of the reasons why that he would take it upon himself to just start kidnapping people, and especially Dusk. Like, he didn't kill Dusk, he just kidnapped her. What do you got to say for us, Dusk? Not much to go on there. Let's get my bird watchers. I love calling them bird watchers. You can't stop me. Let's take a look. It's in a book. So she obviously has her eyes opened. Let's not draw too much attention to that. But she is obviously very weakened. Let's just be inappropriate. Actually, the reason why I'm doing it... Oh, it actually does. I thought that it would actually just have, like, her leg model just end abruptly and just have, like, just legs floating in space. I'm kind of disappointed, actually, that it goes up that far. Oh, well. I was going to amuse myself. But that's all she's going to say for the time being. But whenever she's here, she's still recovering. And it seems like you can even leave the area and then come back. And she still does that. So she's still recovering. She's not in her right mind. All that she will remember is seeing me. Or what I am showing her, anyways. To be me. Now, oh goodness, before we proceed any further, what would be the easiest way? Undead. Unperish. This is the easiest way to get there. Let's go back and try to summon her again. And after we summon her, then we will go back here and pick up from there. There's a couple other things that I need to get done, too, while I'm thinking about it. Okay. But again, you can make up any story as far as why exactly Manus is doing what he's doing. It is never stipulated, which is perfect. Like, that's exactly how you want it to be. You don't want to explain too many things, because then the fact that it forces involvement. I've talked about this in my art gripe about writing, but it forces involvement from the viewer or the reader or whoever happens to be. And since it's forcing that involvement, it necessitates actually thinking about what's going on and sort of immersing yourself in the story. So it's very good that they did not have like an item description that said, you know, Manus, you know, is seeking this pendant because of his long-lost mother, or some other ridiculous all-fathered Lloyd level nonsense of some kind. It would just introduce more complications. Sort of like that all-father Lloyd concept. You just don't do that. Just don't. If you're making a game like this, that is the perfect way to handle it. It is frustrating, I understand. But the fact that it is frustrating is what causes the impetus for actually delving into it in the first place. No, okay, we're gonna do that later. But yeah, what exactly he was doing with Dusk in the first place is not explained either. We might learn a little bit more about that in a second. But the general gist of it is that he has his own motivations. And I imagine that his motivations are very, very primal. Like, we saw that he had been warped by the Abyss itself. It says that he's the father of the Abyss, which we've talked about before. I'm not going to talk about it again. We talked about that last episode, about whether or not he actually was the father of the Abyss, what his link to the Abyss was, how long ago the Abyss has, you know, how long the Abyss has existed, and so on. And there's a sign right there. So I got to go too much into it. But it does seem like the dark soul that is within him had run wild to the point that it actually was creating abyssal sort of radiation around him. And to me, that's what the source of the Abyss actually was. Remember whenever we were talking about last episode about how the nature of the dark soul is that it embodies strong emotions, like jealousy and desire and everything like that. And it inexorably causes us to be led to our own destruction. Like, we know that it's going to destroy us and kill us, but we gravitate towards it anyways. Like the humanity enemies that we find inside of the abyssal area, you know, they're not actually trying to attack us, but they're moving towards us. They're almost like they're trying to be us, so they're trying to, you know, just merge themselves into us, or something like that. Hug us, for all we know. But inevitably, it leads to them killing us and getting themselves killed because we have to defend ourselves. So the idea that Manus is raging because of this deep-seated primal need that is never really expressed, this incredible emotion that's driving his every action, that is never actually laid out, and maybe the Manus himself even does not understand anymore. Like, maybe it's not clear whether or not he's actually human. Like, what happened? Did he die? It says that he died. But did he die? Of course, it would make sense that he died, because he would not have, if he was just a normal human. Like, the Dark Soul was at its weakest at the very beginning, right? So he would not be undead. So he would die like a normal human being because the undead curse had not happened yet. But since he was the holder of the original Lord Soul, maybe that's how he was resurrected in the first place. Because if he had died like a normal human being, if the Oolacilians had come upon him and then noticed, hey, this guy has a huge amount of latent humanity inside of his body, maybe that's how they were able to revive him. But whenever he was revived, whether or not he actually was sapient or not, you know, whether he was sane, whether he was actually able to communicate with anyone, or even how long it took for him to just go completely berserk, we don't know. We don't know anything like that. But either way, it is very fitting that Manus as an enemy would create the Abyss if the Abyss is an extension of his raw emotion and desire and self-destruction running completely wild and destroying everything around him. Like, all the physical matter around him is being annihilated from the sheer power of his soul. It's very fitting, isn't it? Okay, anyways, I just wanted to get that out there. Like, the more you think about that, the more it makes sense, doesn't it? And I hope that the more you think about it, the more you can appreciate how... I don't know how much thought Miyazaki actually gave it, but as a system, as this narrative structure, as far as how the souls work and so on, it really works really, really well, as far as whatever point that he's trying to make, which we'll get into more as we near the very, very final episode. But for time being, let's get a Dusk saucy little patoot in here. And try not to kill her violently. I'm always afraid of hitting R1 accidentally, just murking the shit out of somebody. Alright, but here we have Oolacile. Here we have Dusk once again. Now that... whenever she was captured by Manus, we could not summon her. Like, it's time travel, do not try to make any sense out of this, but we couldn't summon her. Now that we rescued her, we can summon her again.
I am Dusk of Oolacile. It is an honor to see thee again. I shall follow thy wishes.
Alright, now she doesn't have anything new, as you can see. But she does have a few new talk options.
My home of Oolacile was reduced to ashes long ago in my time. I have been alone ever since. But to be summoned thus, and to be of service to thee, it is most rewarding. Oh, forgive me. Such a long past time is none of thine concern.
So, even in the context of her being summoned here, she seems to speak about her old empire, or her old city, or, kingdom, or whatever it happens to be, as though that happened long ago. Like, even for her. So apparently, after Oolacile was reduced to ashes, as she put it, then she began her wandering. Whether she stayed there, I don't know. Whether she left to go somewhere else, we don't know. But the gods were still in Anor, as far as we know. And the burg had not been constructed yet. But New Londo did exist at the time. So perhaps she went there. But either way, we eventually find her corpse over there. So regardless of what exactly her life became, like what became of her life after we met her, the only thing that she could ever think of from that point on was of you, the player, and of her old home. So obviously, despite Oolacile being destroyed, she kind of left herself there in the process. She never recovered from it, as far as we can tell.
This may strike thine ear as somewhat peculiar, but long ago, in my homeland of Oolacile, I was beset by a creature from the abyss. I would have perished then, were it not for the great knight Artorias. In truth, I saw little of what transpired, for mine senses were already fled, but even still, there was something about Artorias, a certain balance of the humors that quite perfectly fits your semblance. Heavens, could it be that? Oh, dear me. That was Oolacile, many centuries ago. Please excuse my fanciful musings.
A lot to go over there. Just ignore that I'm wearing this. I probably ruined the moment. But it seems like the legend of Artorias actually came from her. She thought that the person that was rescuing her was Artorias, which seems to insinuate that she was aware that Artorias and Sif, and possibly the other knights as well, were already in Oolacile, which we'll meet someone else today that will actually further reinforce that notion, since he seems to have had interaction with the Oolacilians as well. But she says that a creature from the abyss, captured her, which kind of seems to insinuate that maybe the abyss had been around for a while, because she doesn't say that the creature created the abyss. which could mean that actually Manus was awoken for quite some time prior to even her birth. And maybe that was sort of the source of a lot of their power in the first place, perhaps. Or maybe it means that the Abyss actually did exist before Manus originated it, fathered the Abyss. Who knows? But either way, you'll notice that the Abyss does exist to this very day. It's still present in New Londo, because that's where we fought the Four Kings. We had to use the Covenant of Artorias to actually traverse the Abyss in the first place. And it is interesting that we actually did not need to wear the Covenant of Artorias ring in order to navigate the abyssal area to fight Manus in the first place. Which may just mean that it had not had enough time to completely envelop all the physical matter all around it or something like that. It's possible. But either way, she straight up just kind of confirms we, the player, are the ones that actually rescued her. Although she seems to even deny this herself. Like, she humors the idea for a second, then almost just as quickly decides to chase it away. Almost as though the memory, the legacy of Artorias is a little bit too important. That maybe we shouldn't really humor it. So, and of course, maybe, I don't know, maybe it seems more like she humors it for a second and then thinks, no, that's ridiculous. How could he ever have gotten back to where I was? Like, it makes sense to be able to summon someone from another time and place, although it has to be something that you're actually consciously doing, like laying down a sign and being summoned in and so forth. So actually being pulled into the past, I don't know, maybe seems a little bit far-fetched. I don't know if the way signs work in this universe, if you can actually go backwards, or maybe you can only go forwards in time. Like your sign is just sitting there for, in theory, ages, before someone actually uses it, at which point the memory of who you are reaches back into time and pulls you through. So it makes sense that you couldn't actually go backwards naturally with signs. I don't know. That's a whole other thing entirely. But you get the idea. As far as the characterization of her goes and the characterization of Artorias, it seems like she's the one that originated the idea that Artorias was the one that actually did all the work. So I would not give too much credence to the idea that it was Ciaran and, I haven't mentioned him yet, but go, that actually spread that idea in the first place. It does seem like it was her, which to me insinuates that she left Oolacile and actually did go to another land before inevitably dying here. And thank you very much. This controller's driving me nuts. It's been disconnecting like crazy lately.
This may strike thine
same
ear
thing.
as
So it wouldn't be
some
clear.
long ago in my homeland
Beset
of
by a
Oolacile,
creature.
I would have
Harrison,
perished
no
then,
problem.
in
Yes.
truth. I saw little of what
It is interesting.
transpired.
She seems to insinuate that she was
My
actually
senses
watching
were
the
already
fight.
fled, but even still,
Like maybe she was actually
there
being
was
carried
something
around in one of
about
his hands.
Artorias that quite heaven. Oh, dear, please excuse.
One of his hands, obviously, we saw what one of his hands was doing. It was slapping the shit out of us. So, I doubt that he was being, or she was being held in that hand. It is possible that he was carrying her around in the other hand. Maybe. Who knows. But that's all we need from her for the time being.
Need, pray summon me again. I wish to be of assistance. May the flames guide thee.
May the flames guide thee as well. Now, don't you turn into a corpse later that inexplicably gets down here somehow. We won't be worrying about that, though. Okay. Now, now that we have taken care of that, I actually need to go back to Oolacile. Unless actually, we're gonna warp back to where Manus is, I'm pretty sure. We'll see if she is actually still there. I kind of doubt it, but it's possible. Because time travel. No, she does not seem to be here. Okay. That would have required even more explaining, wouldn't it? Okay, but let's go back to the township and hope that I don't get invaded. If I do, I'll just cut video there. But I've got to cheat in a few items so that we can talk about them. But we also need to talk to our friend up here. And Ciaran is long since gone, I believe. Yeah, she's not here anymore. Okay, but remember that we got that key from the area in which that mimic was, the second mimic that we encountered in this area? And that was the key to this tower that we have not had access to just yet. And after we unlock this, I think I'm going to cut video. I'm going to cheat a few things in just to have this be a good stopping point for the time being. And also, I need to get a drink. But we used it was the crest key, that's what it was. But we'll climb up here and meet our new friend, Hawkeye Gough. But we'll save that for a bit, because I need to get a drink. And we'll cut right back in here and talk about a few items. And talk about some of the notes that I had written from last time. I meant for this just to be a quick opening. But you know what my intentions usually chalk up to in regards to this playthrough. Okay, see you guys in a second. Okay, we're back, and my voice is a little bit less sore than it was a second ago. I got the items in that we needed to talk about. We're not going to talk to Go just yet, because there's a few things that we need to actually go over. As far as notes go, one, something I keep forgetting to mention, Artorias himself is basically just a reference to Berserk. Yet another one, yes, I know. I mean, like, he's kind of his own character, but he's mainly, he doesn't really have much of a personality that we actually get to see. He's just kind of there, but he's basically just, he's not guts straight up, but like even the DLC cover actually just straight up just shows like the cover art is a straight up just redraw of a frame from Berserk. Like that's how far it goes. Other than that, there's a few things actually in the regard. One thing I wanted to point out, means really not much of anything, but I wanted to point out that Beatrice's catalyst. Remember Beatrice? We summoned her for beating the Moonlight Butterfly. Wow, that was a long time ago. And the Four Kings. Notice that her catalyst is exactly the same thing as the generic Sorcerer's catalyst. Doesn't really mean a whole lot, but it does sort of insinuate that she was actually an amateur sorcerer. Or maybe not that she was an amateur so much as maybe she was underpowered or something. Like, she didn't have the proper tools to make use of how fucking strong she actually was. Maybe something like that. Who knows? Anyways, it's just interesting to note. There's really not much to say about it. Other than, I was thinking about it the other day just because it looks so Oolacile. So there's that, I guess. The Oolacile Catalyst drops from Oolacile Sorcerers. You know, the ones that actually cast magic at us? And this will be kind of interesting. There's not a whole lot to say about the Catalyst itself. I'll just read this. Everyday Oolacile Sorcery Catalyst formed by several enchanted branches. Boost sorcery adjustment, but Lost Land sorcerers are not offensive, and attacks are not boosted by intelligence. There's something interesting to note about the nature of magic in an Oolacile. One is that it's magic. If this takes place before Gwen kindled, then that means, most likely, that the bit of chaos does not exist in this time period that we're standing around accomplishing nothing in. Which means that pyromancy should not exist, other than the one that we physically are carrying around. That's a whole other thing in itself. We discovered another pyromancy in this area in the first place, so I guess that doesn't really mean much of anything. But maybe it's close enough, like maybe the bit of chaos thing has already happened, and it's actually happening right now, for all we know. We don't know. But Oolacile did use magic. Like, they straight up just used magic. They didn't use, like, dark magic or anything, like any sort of, nonsense like that. They just straight up just used sorcery. And what exactly is sorcery, except for the things that the witches used, that they passed down? So either this means that, for one, humans using sorcery is really fucking weird, if you think about it. Because we humans are really not supposed to be able to do that. That's the domain of the witches. So either it means that it was not the domain of witches, and that's yet another thing that was exaggerated in the past. The opening cinematic was wrong yet again, or is another just thing that's just part of a legend that wasn't really necessarily all true. Or it means that the witches were at least teaching that to people, and this is For fuck's sake, Xbox controller. Or, it means that the, I mean, either way, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that we would be using it. But the fact that Oolacilian magic is not offensive would seem to imply that before pyromancy was pyromancy, that maybe there was a sort of softer version of what, like, we don't know what the magic of the witches was actually like, other than they were able to weave great firestorms. And beyond that, we really don't know. Like, the only evidence of how we actually see their magic implemented is in pyromancy itself, which is offensive by its very nature. Although we see elements of it being linked with life as well. So, if the Oolacilians were using magic, and they're close enough to this era, it would make sense that their magic would not actually be offensive. So either this is actually evidence of how ancient witch magic actually worked, or it's just the Oolacilians' natural means of using magic in the first place, and it's just fitting with their theme and it doesn't mean anything. There's lots of different ways of looking at it. I just wanted to make sure that I brought that up. But again, the actual catalyst itself doesn't really have a lot to go on as far as that goes. And this is Manus Catalyst, the Manus Catalyst. It doesn't say Manus's Catalyst, just Manus Catalyst. Oops, sorry, microphone. Manus Catalyst, which is kind of interesting. Although we saw him using it in the first place, so yeah. A sorcerer catalyst born from the soul of Manus, Father of the Abyss. So you can use his soul to actually create this. Or you can give it to the crows. Kind of weird that you give it to the crow of all things. Like, you don't really see that that often. Like, you either... If a soul has multiple uses, usually you take it to one guy and he either has 2 weapons, or you take it to one guy, or you take it to another guy. You don't use the crows, normally. Anyways. A rough, old wooden catalyst, large enough to be used as a strike weapon. So it seems to insinuate that it was something that maybe he was carrying around with him in the first place, and it was warped along with him. Maybe. Similar to the tin crystallization catalyst. Do I actually have that? Yeah, here it is. Similar to this. It boosts the strength of sorceries but limits the number of castings. So maybe these are correlated in some fashion. I kind of doubt it, but I'll read this quickly. Catalyst imbued with terrifying crystal magic used by Logan after his fixation on Sif. This was actually created from another sort of warped means of using magic. Makes the sorcerer incredibly powerful, demands blah, 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 blah. The only correlation that I really see here is that Manus Catalyst was created from a warped version of sort of sorcery and physicality in the Dark Soul, whereas this one is linked with a warped version of the manipulation of the soul itself. So anytime that you sort of do this, if you imbue a catalyst with this sort of thing, this sort of exaggerated form of magic, then it seems to do this, makes it to where you're unable to cast it as much, but it makes it way more powerful. And it's more of a gameplay convention, so I'm not going to read too much into it, but it's kind of a little bit interesting, I guess. A little bit interesting. Pursuers, we've actually already read this off, but I would show it off once again. Sorcerer, Manus, Father of the Abyss. This is the thing you get from the crows, if you choose to bring it to the crows. Or the crow, I should say. Grant a fleeting will to the dark humanity following the result. The will feels envy or perhaps love, and despite the inevitably trite and tragic ending, the will sees no alternative and is driven madly towards its target. We've been talking a lot about this, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But again, I read this off in the prior part. Just the idea that the Dark Soul itself embodies emotion and self-destruction. Inevitable self-destruction because of desire. And that's what the Dark Soul is. Pursuers is probably to unite all the aspects of all the narrative, structure that's going on throughout the entire game. I would say that Pursuers might just be the very most important item description in the entire game. If I had to call out one thing and one thing alone, it would probably have to be Pursuers. Very, very important. Of course, there's other things that are very important too, but I guess that's kind of my favorite. It's really not even that complicated. It just says that and that's it. But it's still very important. Like, it fits the theme and just unites everything. Okay, in addition to that, I also need to, if I can find it, the bloated head. Okay, both bloated heads. You get these as 1% drops from the mad citizens outside. And again, I don't think that the citizens outside are necessarily undead. It's possible that they are. I'm not going to say that they're not. But it's not really clear either way. They respawn, so... But then again, lots of things respawn. That, like the Silver Knights in Anor Londo respawn. And they're not undead, certainly. They're gods. They're not humans at all. There's no possible way that they should be able to respawn. Other than the illusion that's there in the first place. But whenever you dispel the illusion, I think... Again, we'll have to check it later. They remain, so make it sense out of that if you want to. But anyways, the citizens are actually warped by the power of Manus himself. And that's the reason why they are the way that they are. And whether or not these bloated heads are actually heads or not, or maybe something that is an outcropping of their soul or something, and it has manifested around them, and the fact that it has encompassed their heads is sort of a visual cue that they have lost their minds or something. You can read it that way. But bloated head. The head of an Oolacile resident whose humanity went wild after being devoured by the dark of Manus, father of the abyss. Oh, thank you, RC Cola. My throat really feels bad. The bloated head is fissured. The cracks lined with innumerable tiny red eyeballs. So the eyes themselves are actually lying within the fissures of the head. With a hard outside and mucus, excuse me. I'm trying to say this in a way that sounds stupid, but also kind of believable. Mucus, sorry. I was trying to get away with it, but I can't resist. A hard outside and mucus filled inside. No sane person would ever wear it, except for us, of course. So it does seem, if it's mucus, it has a mucus field inside. It does seem to insinuate that it's actually something that is sort of growing out of the person, but isn't actually their physical head anymore. Otherwise, you would be fitting your head inside of like a skull or something. So this does seem to be something that you actually tear off the outside skin of someone, and it would make sense that it would actually have mucus associated with it. Or maybe it's actually what remains of their skin, perhaps. We really don't know. It's probably best not to think too much about it. But whether the eyeballs do seem to be functional. I mean, they can physically see you. But it is really interesting that then it's something that's surrounding their head either way. Like, it actually isn't their head. Whether it's their skin or whether it's something that's actually encompassing them. It's interesting that it is something that is controlling them. Almost like the, it's not their actual soul that is erupting in power and causing this outgrowth to creep across their entire body. Almost like it is the power of Manus himself that is actually infesting them, or the abyss itself that is actually infesting them. And that is actually what is overtaking them. Really hard to say. But again, Eastern storytelling, probably not something you're supposed to think about too much. Now, bloated sorcerer head, pretty much the same exact thing. The bloated sorcerer heads are actually dropped only by the Oolacilian sorcerers. And that's just interesting to note just because there were Oolacilian sorcerers. Like, the ones that were not sorcerers. Like, they did not have the ability to cast magic as human beings. They became these guys. Just ordinary... The ordinary bloated head guys. The ones that actually did have magical power in them instead turn into these things. The only difference here, cracks, lime, numeral, tiny red eyeballs. And accented by protruding brain parts. Ew, brain parts. Nasty. And, of course, sorcery is linked with intelligence. So it would make sense that whenever it's exaggerating that element of them, then their brain would end up being exposed. So this protruding brain part does insinuate that there has been some sort of eruption. Or maybe it's just talking about the brain of the head itself. Like you're wearing another brain on top of your existing brain or something. I don't know. Maybe it's best not to think too much about it, but just the fact that it has protruding brain parts probably is just some sort of association with sorcery. Even though Oolacilian sorcerers, of course, don't rely on intelligence scaling, so just look at that how you will. It is lightly enchanted, suggesting that it may have belonged to a sorcerer, which, it was. The fact that it is enchanted, it doesn't really say what the enchantment is, just that it is enchanted. But whether this enchantment was something that just was natural, like it was an outgrowth of their own magical power and it just infested it, or that it was something that was actually enchanted by the sorcerers themselves because they were trying to get rid of it, or maybe because they were trying to use it. We don't know, but it was enchanted. One way or the other, it was enchanted. Whew, goodness. Oh, and lastly... By the way, I shouldn't have done this, but I was running earlier, which is one of the reasons why I'm so tired now. Plus, it's like 3 in the morning or something by now. But by the way, we never read Ciaran's clothes, so we need to do that too. Mask of the Lord's Blade, Ciaran. One of Gwyn's 4 knights. The Cyclops headpiece, this is it, is common to all of the Lord's Blades. We never see any of them except for her. But Ciaran was determined to earn this soft porcelain mask as a unique decoration of honor. The mask is lined with ivory locks of hair. Interesting way of putting it. The Cyclops headpiece is common to all of the Lord's Blades, but Ciaran was determined to earn this soft porcelain mask as a unique decoration of honor. So it seems to insinuate that all of the Lord's Blades wear this mask. Because it says that the Cyclops headpiece is common to all of the Lord's Blades. But Ciaran was determined to earn the soft porcelain mask as a unique decoration of honor. That's really weird, because it seems to imply that maybe she was outside of the Lord's Blades and that she had to rise to power. But even if she was like an outsider, then what would make it unique, exactly? Because it says it would be a unique decoration of honor if she were to earn this soft porcelain mask. The only thing that I can really make sense of is that maybe the headpiece. You see the headpiece up there. Like, you can't really make it out here, but the Cyclops sort of singular eye that's on the very top of the headpiece, which is, for the Lord's Blades. If they were assassins, they were all assassins, then it would make sense that they would have, eyes as their motif. Don't look into this as, oh, Dark Souls 2, the golems, forget that shit. Don't worry about that. That they all had that. But the thing around her face, the porcelain mask part, is the thing that's unique. So if we run across more Lord's Blades, then maybe they would actually wear that, but they would not actually have the porcelain mask. Like, it would just be their face, maybe. Or maybe it could be armor, we don't know. But I would assume that they actually do not have the porcelain mask component to that helmet. That's the best kind of sense I can make out of the way that this item description is worded. The mask is lined with ivory locks of hair. Which is kind of gross, because is it her hair? I don't think it is. Whose hair are you wearing, Ciaran? That's kind of nasty. It's kind of nasty, girl. But anyways, I wrote comment to all of the Lord's Blades. These diddly women shift nimbly between layers of darkness. Ooh, the sinister assassins. Edging streaks of gold into the night air. Not the day air. They only do that shit in the night air. Streaks of gold, motherfucker. And planting visions of terror in the minds of their targets. They don't actually kill them, they just plant visions of terror in their minds. What's that outside, Bill? It looks like layers of darkness. Holy shit, streaks of gold in the night air. Oh, I'm getting all sorts of planted terror in my mind. Oh, I'm gonna die soon or something, maybe. Who knows? Is that a Cyclops head out there? I don't know. I'm sorry. I know exactly what it means. I'm just giving her a rough time. Okay. The other thing we need to look at, I think there's less thing what we need to look at. I'm sorry, guys, but this is what it is. The last thing we need to look at is goat stuff. You can't get this without killing him. One of my gripes about the Souls game sometimes is that how hard they make it to get certain things. And, like, you notice there's a few times, like Manus' stuff. You can get his catalyst. and you can get the pursuers. You can't get them in the same playthrough. And there's a few things that I think actually you can get like 3 things from one soul. I hate that. I hate not being able to get everything in the same playthrough. It just drives me crazy. It drives me bananas. Because I want everything. Dark Souls 2 is the worst about it, too. But yeah, Gough stuff, the only thing you can do is kill him to get it. And if you don't kill him, then guess what? You don't get it. Makes me angry enough to eat a chip. I was feeling kind of lightheaded. Didn't realize it until I ate that chip. Like, some of the hammers and shit like that, too. You can only get craftsman hammers by killing the smiths associated with them. That's another one of those things. It's the reason why people go on killing sprees before they go to New Game Plus. Because how else are you going to get it? Then they show up to New Game Plus with a boatload of sin. Anyways. Gough's Helm +5. Helm of Hawkeye Gough. Or Gog. Or Gough. Don't blame me for mispronouncing it the way that you prefer it to be pronounced. If you don't want him to be Go, if you want him to be Gough, if you want that, then I guess each time that I say it, you can just go to your heart's content. Received as a decoration of knightly honor. So he got this as a decoration of knightly honor. So he didn't always have it. A helm crafted especially for the honorable Hawkeye Gough. Only the eye holes were packed with tree resin by those who dismiss Gough as a brutish giant. So again, we had this eye thing. Like, Ciaran has this... Ciaran the Cyclops, even though she's not actually Cyclops. Manus having shit tons of eyes. Artorias being somewhat blind, but not completely. You know, I demonstrated that last part whenever we actually equipped the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring. He's somewhat blind as a result of being afflicted with the Abyss, although it doesn't seem like he's completely blind. Like, he has somewhat decent lock-on range. You just have to be far away from him in order for that trick to work. And Gough himself is also blind. I guess Ornstein lucked out in that regard. So, before we even go, how much is different here? Okay. Yeah, okay. Received as a decoration of honor. So, in addition to this being a decoration of knightly honor, so were these. Crafted of a similar material to the gauntlets worn by the Silver Knights. This is just a, you know, I guess we already know that he's one of the 4 knights anyway, so them saying this doesn't really mean a whole lot. But yeah, it's just, they were crafted from the same material. The Silver Knights happened way... So maybe... if he wears the same sort of stuff that the Silver Knights do, the same kind of material and everything, then wouldn't that imply that he actually participated in the war against the dragons, that he wore this at the time? Which would be, you know, kind of interesting. Anyways. Armor donned by Gough since his days as a Dragon Slayer. Since his days as Dragon Slayer. So yes, he wore it during the war against the dragons. The medallion, which you can barely see, bequeathed by the Lord himself, Lord Gwyn, and the Dragonbone pauldrons are symbols of the highest honors. And I'm saying, did he actually go to war against dragons? We know that he did, because his dialogue will say so, but I'm just trying to lay out the logic of each one of these things as I see it. But anyways, now that we have that out of the way, he was you know, a warrior since the era of dragons. But each time that I put this fucking controller down, it does that. I get so tired of it. A helm crafted especially for the honorable Hawkeye Gough. Only the eye holes were packed with true resin by those who dismiss Gough as a brutish giant. Who exactly did this, we don't know. We don't know who exactly packed his eye holes full of tree resin. But considering that is tree resin, and since we're in Oolacile, and since he does seem to be a prisoner here... And actually, hold on, where's the crest key? The grooves of the crest are enchanted and the door sealed with a powerful spell. Since his eyes are occluded with this tree resin, which you can see here. Look at his, actually, it seems like even his pauldrons seem to have a little bit of it on there too. Interesting. But, since it is included with, that, pine resin, or tree resin, and since the door itself was sealed with magic, which seems to imply imprisonment, of course, then that seems to indicate that the Oolacilians were the ones that actually did this to him in the first place. Why exactly they did it, it says because they thought he was a brute. Like he was just... So, I don't know, I guess that means that he was here before all the Abyss stuff started popping off. Which is kind of unusual. Or it's possible that it started happening and he came here and they didn't think too much of what he was saying. And then from that point on is whenever they attacked him and imprisoned him. However they meant... I don't know how the hell they got him in here. Like, I guess they airlifted his ass up here. Because he certainly didn't come in through here, did he? So I guess somehow they managed to just pick him up and toss him over this thing. Like they just carved out the columns just enough to airlift his ass in here. Or maybe this place used to be... Oh, I don't know. Maybe like there used to be stairs here, and then they lifted him up here, and then spent the next several months knocking him unconscious over and over again and keeping him fed. Just enough to construct this wall, and long enough that the walls would then collapse over time. And somehow also he has enough food in here, even though he doesn't, to keep himself fed and keep from starving. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But don't think about it. It's a video game, right? Like, even though the game asks us to think about things so much, it's just a video game, so who fucking cares? But anyways, in addition to all that, you will notice that he is using these little pieces of stone, these pieces of arch tree, actually, is what these are. And he is actually very slowly carving out these little segments of the arch tree into the carvings that I so gleefully use in PvP. These do not seem to be... They seem to be the raw materials, which is kind of interesting. It seems to imply that maybe the reason why he's in here is because they talked him into going up here in the first place. Which, honestly, he seems kind of like the guy that would do that anyways. Like, to avoid some sort of confrontation, maybe he agreed to just hop his big old butt in here if they would give him enough of these things to live out his days. Because he doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. And I guess this is a good lead-in for actually talking to him in the first place. Is there anything else? No, okay. So let's talk to good old Gough here.
A visitor, have we? Thou must be the one who freed Artorias. An old friend he was. Thanks to thee, he left this world with honor intact. And here I am, retired and blind. Of little help to thee, I'm afraid.
Retired and blind. Now, one of the easiest things to ask is why doesn't he just take off his helmet? If the eye holes are occluded by this resin, does that mean that he believes he is blind? Like he's just really fucking stupid? And he doesn't realize that if he just took off his helmet, then, oh, I can see. Oh, there's so many things. Oh my god, this is just... Or it could mean that he became blind. And that later they put the resin over him and he just didn't notice. Or maybe he just... He does it intentionally. Like, he just has... I don't... None of this makes any sense. Plus, like, the only other giant that we meet is the giant blacksmith. Who actually has his ring, by the way. Remember we got the Hawk ring? It belongs to Gough. And he will reveal later that those two actually are friends. But point being, the blacksmith also has a helmet that obscures his vision. Like, you cannot see his eyes. You can't see his mouth. You can't see his nose or anything like that. So all the giants seem to wear that. Why? We don't know. Again, maybe it's just supposed to be this idea that the more intelligence you have, the higher your magic, and, you know, and the more link that has to your soul, and the more insight you have, and so on. And if you have no vision at all, that means that you're kind of a dunderhead. So the idea that they intentionally obscured his vision could mean that they just did not straight up just did not respect him at all. And they wanted to say, hi, you're dumb, you're so dumb that you can't see. But why he doesn't take his helmet off is another thing entirely, so... Oh boy, that one's rough. Oh, man. But more importantly, yes, finally. Oh, God, yes, oh, please. Hello, carving. Head carved of arch trees by Gough in his imprisonment. Gough imparts an emotion to each and every completed carving, we've been over this before, which helps him achieve personal enlightenment. So he spends his day sitting in here, just trying. He's going over all of his past glories, like he's in retirement. Like he doesn't say that he's in prison. He says that he's retired, which seems to indicate that he could get out whenever he wants to. He just doesn't want to. So I guess he's in sort of a self-imposed exile. So him saying, "Well, I'm blind," maybe he willingly acknowledges it. And he just says, okay, I'm blind, why not? Which would go along with the idea, this more Eastern mentality of obscuring your vision to give yourself more enlightenment into the world around you and into yourself. So there's that too. But he carves all these things for the sake of personal enlightenment. And he imparts an emotion into each and every one of them. Again, the emotions and things like this personal desires linked with the dark soul. So even he... And it's not clear whether the giants are actually gigantic humans, which I kind of doubt, or whether they are gods that are somehow... Like, what is the distinction between the giants... Like, there's the giants, and then there's, like, Smo, who is huge because he consumes so much humanity. Does that mean that they consume so much humanity at some point? Or are they just different somehow? The game never says anything about the giants. And then in Dark Souls 2, there's the whole giant thing that I keep begging you guys to forget. Doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. Just try to make sense out of that what you can. But anyways, just another indication that even though he is a god, I'm going to assume that he's a god, even then, the aspects of all the souls are still within each and every person. So it's not like a huge deal that he would kind of have this associate, like he very much so fits with the theme of this area. And he seems to be the only one that's really at peace here. Like Artorias obviously was driven to being slain by me because I'm awesome. And Ciaran obviously experienced great tragedy and now has left forever, wherever she happened to go. But Gough is the only one here that seems to just be chilling out, like he's at peace, like he is just achieving personal enlightenment. So even though the dark is running rampant all around him, he's okay with it. Which actually we will confirm later on. Anyways, when a head is disturbed, it speaks, reflecting the emotion conferred to it. This head says, hello. Have another look. Do you sense the amicability in its eyes? Which you can sort of just barely make out the face here, but all of these have a face. He carves a little bitty face into them, and somehow, we don't know how, whether he does it by magic or whether he just screams into the wood, "Ah! Ah!" until it's like, whoa, Jesus, fine. We don't know. It might actually have something to do with the nature of the quote-unquote wood that he's using anyways. Like, these are carved from arch trees, head carved of arch trees. If he uses these arch tree stone / wood, then this might be an insight into exactly what the arch trees are in the first place. Like, they are stone, and they can slowly become wood over time if they're being imbued with the first flame's essence. Estus, or whatever you want to say. So maybe it's that, again, this is just the means of everything being linked together, and what's actually going on is that as he gives the stone shape, it actually becomes wood. And once it becomes wood, it takes on whatever emotion that he has been conferring into it as he actually carves it. Because, I mean, it could be that they actually don't begin as stone. Maybe they are just straight up just wood, and it's something that the Oolacilians gave to him. But either way, you'll notice that whenever you toss it on the ground, it seems to explode. So whenever you actually use it, it seems to be straight up just wood. So I guess that might be another way of looking at it, that actually the wood itself has some special unique property that is indicative of how the world works. Like, as the world grows, as it grows in age, it begins taking on the aspects of the world around it. And this is just one more way of demonstrating that. That Gough, as he sits there doing his own little thing, he's imbuing his emotion, his voice, into these objects, which is pretty interesting. So I want to buy that. Let's see. Are these any different? No, okay. Huh, am I missing one? I might be missing one. Thank you, carving. Because this head says, thank you. Have another look. Is this not a face of gratitude? I think this one's more rough than any of them. Like, there's like a... I see sort of like a big nose, or actually kind of looks like a scrotum and a I don't know. Just there's eyes somewhere in here. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now that we have that, is there anything else? Yeah, I think I misspoke on one of the parts. Great arrow used by Hawkeye. One of the Lord Gwyn's 4 knights for dragon slaying. It's trying. The way that this is written is really peculiar, but you could think of the 4 knights as being for dragon slaying, but it's probably most definitely just talking about the arrow, that the arrow itself is used for dragon slaying. But it's kind of interesting. I don't know if he's actually making them, or if he just carries around a shitload of them, and they were made specifically for him. But it says, Gough personally crafts each stone tip and rests the shaft tightly with tree bark. So I'm assuming that he's the one that's actually making these things. And remember, we found some of them outside, which seems to indicate that either someone was trying to use them, or maybe he had been there before he actually made his way here. Like, maybe he was actually in the process of trying to shoot down Special K before the Oolacilians got to him.
Farewell, human. Lead thy life as thou seest fit.
And notice he does call us human, which to me is another indication that he is not human himself. Dogs, shut the fuck up. I get so sick of them during the middle of the goddamn night. I heard a thing! Did you? No, but maybe. We're bored. They just run around barking at nothing. Like, you can hear them going across the fucking house. Just running out to this side. Like, my room is on a corner, so I can hear them just moving back and forth across the entire length of the house, just barking at nothing. Nothing. Not a fucking thing. I don't like dogs very much. They're always barking at something. Can't stand it. That's the reason that's why we bred them, like our ancient ancestors. That's what they did. They kept watch, so it's good that they do it. But, oh, jeez. Anyways.
As thou seekest to explore this domain, be wary of a black dragon.
That's racist, man.
No match for this terrible beast.
Okay, so he warns us about Special K.
Very little,
And then we ask about him.
What good is a dog with no hands to hunt? But I'm lucky to be alive, I suppose.
So he refers to himself as a dog. Which, I guess, maybe he could either be... He could be belittling himself, or he could actually just be saying, I am a dog of Lord Gwyn. He is something to be sicked on other people. And remember that we spoke with the giant blacksmith. The giant blacksmith is not particularly eloquent. Like, Gough, we only have 2 people to work with here. But between the 2 of them, Gough seems to be really, really on top of his game as far as eloquence is concerned in regards to the giants. The Oolacilians, if they were actually aware of the existence of the giants that were used in the war, then it might make sense that they thought of all of them like racist, like a racist tendency, that they thought of all of them as being dunderheads. So whenever Gough shows up saying, you know, hey, you guys need to be careful of the dark, you know, this is going to run rampant and get into your buttholes and stuff, then they would be like, whatever, man, you're a fucking giant. You're dumb as shit. And that's probably exactly what happened, if I had to guess. But knowing Gough, he probably just took it and decided, you know what, if you're going to believe what you want to believe, just go ahead and believe it. Like, I'm just going to concentrate on personal life. And that's all he says about that. But he has no hares to hunt. So it seems like once they ran out of dragons to kill, that was it for him. Like, that's all he really wanted. And once he lost that, once the gods ran out of dragons and then drakes and wyverns and all their little subspecies to hunt down, then he kind of, like, if you saw him going into the Valley of the Drakes or someplace like that, where there's, like, little shitty wyverns that even, like, someone at, like, level 20 or something could probably take care of if they were careful enough. Imagine him going down there and just realizing, wow, my glory days are well behind me. I am, like, killing rats. Like, those things must be like rats to him. Just nothing. They are nothing to him. And he's having these fond memories of going to war against the dragons themselves and beating these huge monstrosities that blotted out the sky. Like we see in the opening cinematic, whether that's true or not. There was just shit tons of them. And they were massive, every single one of them. And they were made of stone. You couldn't really hurt them unless you were actually breaking their bodies apart with lightning. And then he could use his bow on them. It must have been chaos. So him going down into one of these little sub-areas and killing these little shit-tier versions of dragons must have driven him into retirement, if I had to guess. So as far as he's concerned, he's just an old soldier, and this is all that he is. His glory days are well past him. He now has no equal left, and the only thing that he really sees fit to do from this point on is to just work on himself as a person, which is very admirable. And that's all he has to say. Okay.
Farewell, human. Lead thy life as thou seest fit.
I shall, good man, I shall. Okay. There is also one more thing that you can actually get from him, and that is his greatbow. We will be getting that later on. But I'll go ahead and read it now, since it's really not that important. But his greatbow, once you get it after beating Special K. I love calling that. It says, greatbow used by Hawkeye Gough of Lord Gwyn's Four Knights for dragon slaying. Yeah. This bow is larger than those used by the famed dragon slayers. Only their leader Gough had the strength to handle it. So actually, I think I might have one of those. Yeah, see, Dragon Slayer Greatbow. We got this in Anor if you remember. And it was somewhat near the, and we even see them, like when the Anor snipers. Remember them? They were using these very bows. So, I don't know, it seems like the Silver Knights, there was no actual, like, Dragon Slayer, like they had their own unique armor and they were so special and so on. I guess they were just Silver Knights that also were just Dragon Slayers, like that was their primary job being archers. That makes sense, I guess. But either way, we do have one of these. Bow of the Dragon Slayers led by Hawkeye Gough, one of Gwyn's Four Knights. This bow's unusual size requires that it be anchored to the ground when fired, only uses specialized great arrows. This obviously was made for the size of the Silver Knights. We saw his bow. He hasn't used it yet. We saw that fucking bow. Inside of the his little quote-unquote prison. That shit was fucking enormous. So quite a difference. It is interesting that he has his own arrows, but he would not use those arrows for that. Gough instead would probably be firing like trees, like whole trees at things. So maybe he didn't even need lightning. Maybe he was firing those arch trees right through their stone bodies, and it just did not fucking matter. He must have been a badass.
Oh, you. You have quite some nerve, or are you just thick? Fine then. What is it that you need?
I need, let's see, what do I need? How about a Alluring Skull? Yeah, we could use a few green blossoms. I'm not gonna use all my souls, though. 3 green blossoms. Here's all the... he sells arrows, in case you absolutely need any. Feather arrows, I never use these. Red feather arrows of the Lord's Hunters. That's interesting. The Lord's Hunters, like Gwyn dispatches hunters. Maybe they were actually humans that he dispatched to bring food back to Andorlando. They're pretty interesting. Long range makes them effective for sniping. Snipers, always associated with Kareem. Red feather bows used with the sniper crossbow. The long range makes them effective for sniping. Kareem, just like our friend here, so I guess, actually, just for old time's sake, let's get a single sniper bolt. Just for the hell of it. So we'll get that.
I'll be
and,
seeing you if you survive your travels.
I might not, who knows. And I also need you to die.
What now? You think this is all my fault? How very, very petty of you. Very petty indeed.
So I don't know, his dialogue seems to imply that we are actually blaming him for the fact that we have been swallowed into this area by Manus. Just the fact that he seems to think of the fact that he's trying to steal our humanity as, oh, get over it, who cares? But he's a little bitch because he keeps spamming the same fucking attack.
You win.
So he'll die like a bitch.
Oh, please. Have mercy.
So after we fuck his ass, or fuck his shit up, excuse me, that's inappropriate me saying fuck his ass, but we did fuck his ass too. He begs for mercy and dies like a bitch. He'll die like a bitch. Oh, so sorry. But this gives us his useless junk that what I will not be wearing. I kind of like the long coat, but it doesn't really go with anything, you know? And a lot of the pants in this game are way too thin. They make you look like you have chicken legs. It's really strange. But we get that, and nothing else. And he leaves behind his baggage. Don't we all? Don't we all? I wonder what that blue thing is. Maybe it's a photograph. No, it's probably not a photograph. And that looks like a little canteen, or maybe a dildo, we don't know. Don't pry into his business. And a used book, like he was reading something in the process. It would be nice if we could actually see what exactly that book was. But lastly, we will look inside of his dialogue, and then after that we'll call it a night, because we will have to go down here, get Special K the trigger, so that we can go back up to go and get some dialogue from him. There's actually variations of that, which I will explain in the next part. But we'll leave it at that for the time being. Okay. Last thing we'll do, try to find, in this mess of a thing I refuse to organize. If I actually put this inside of the bottomless box, there would be plenty of things that I would think, oh, this links to this other thing, and I wouldn't be able to have access to it. So it's good that I carry around all this shit. Sure, please believe me. Chester's long coat. Black leather long coat hat. Let's just ignore that. Worn by Marvelous Chester, a man of mystery, who died like a... Oh, no, he didn't know it. Lost in the past. This exquisitely sewn aristocratic suit allows its wearer to move in silence, lending well to stealth. Because he's from Kareem, and all the Kareem people are not to be trusted. Does that sound racist? Because it is. Oh, hold on. Oh, there's variations. Leather gloves worn by him, man of mystery. These gloves have no distinguishing features, but are extremely high quality. So apparently he had quite a bit of wealth. Black leather trousers worn by Marvelous Chester, man of blah blah blah. These crystally sewn trousers are decorated with silver trinkets of varying sizes and have straps on the inner legs for carrying crossbow bolts. So again, silver trinkets, insinuating that wherever he came from, he must have been someone of great importance, or at least someone that had a great amount of wealth. Which is kind of unusual because if he had a great amount of wealth, and like silver trinkets, that seems to imply that wherever he came from is actually a stable region that actually does still use money And like we see, like the silver coins and the gold coins that we got from Petrus and the chest in Orlando, remember those things? Those made it quite clear that money has no value in a land that is brimming with undead. Because civilization has kind of collapsed, and the main commodity is going to be power. It's going to be souls that people can imbue in their own flesh to make themselves stronger so that they can survive amongst all these trials, right? So it does seem to imply that wherever he came from is a stable land, which is somewhat unusual. Stickering top hat. Black top hat worn by Marvelous Chester, man a bitch. The wearer of this top hat cracks a dubious permanent grin. The Curse of Chester. The Curse of Chester. I have no fucking clue what that's supposed to mean. Does it mean that he is cursed with being a Chester? Does it mean that he is cursing other people with his grin? I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to be cute. I don't know. Oh, by the way, whenever he says, he had a line of dialogue in which he used the word juniper, by juniper, or something like that. That actually has quite a few different possible meanings, but probably the most provocative is that juniper is actually an old-fashioned way of... It's an old-fashioned variation of the name Guinevere. Is probably the most provocative bit of evidence that I found either way. There's a few other things that kind of are a bit of a stretch, but that's probably the most interesting, which might indicate that he actually came from a land in which Guinevere is known to exist still, but has taken on a different name, or maybe has, I don't know, has a different culture associated with her or something. We don't know. But that's probably the most provocative thing that I can think of either way. So the idea that maybe Guinevere left and went to Kareem might be something interesting with the Flame God Flan, although we haven't got that information yet, so just forget that I said that. We'll get to that later. But that's that. Pretty interesting. Where exactly he came from, we don't know. Whether he was someone of great importance. Some people like to say that he was actually the Earl of Kareem, which to me is just a real stretch. It's just like, just because some of the item descriptions in the game mention an Earl of Kareem, and he also was from Kareem, does not make them the same person, just because, well, there's only one person that they mention. No, it's not that big a deal. But anyways, that's that. If you want to say he's Earl of Kareem, you can go right ahead. I don't know what exactly that tells us about anything. But we do know that he was of the upper class, and that he died like a little bitch. He died like a little bitch. Oh, join the ranks of Sif. Die like a little bitch. Alright. But we'll join the ranks of this brave warrior and go down into Special K territory in the next part of Dark Souls. And then after that, after we get done with that, that should be the last part of... that we should have to do anything in regards to Oolacile and the DLC. After that, we will move into a wrap-up episode after that part, in which we go through all the things that we've been avoiding or missing and so forth and so on, including Sif. We'll have to do that too. So I will see you guys then. And until then, don't die like a bitch. Like the Marvelous Chester. The Curse of Chester indeed. Farewell, everyone.